I will be reading chapter 3 of City of Bones. It's like every time someone starts an audiobook, they don't finish it. Do not mind my hair. I don't know what's going on with it today. It's just like, but you're here to listen to the story, not stare at me. Let's go to chapter 3. Sorry, I kind of read ahead. I was bored the other night, but I put a place marker in there. Okay, chapter 3, Shadow Hunter. By the time they got to Java Jones, Eric was already on stage, swaying back and forth in front of the microphone with his eyes squinched shut. He's dyed the tips of his hair pink for the occasion. Behind him, Matt looking stoned, was beating irregularly on a djembe. I think that's how you say it, djembe. This is going to suck so hard, Clary predicted. She grabbed Simon's sleeve and tucked him toward the doorway. If we make a run for it, we can still get out. I mean, get away. Sorry, I'm off today. He shook his head determinedly. I'm nothing if not a man of my word. He squared his shoulders. I'll get coffee if you find us a seat. What do you want? Just coffee, black like my soul. Simon headed off toward the coffee bar, muttering under his breath something to the effect that it was a far far better thing he did now. Okay, wait. Let me go back a little bit. Sorry, I'm not understanding myself. Simon headed off toward the coffee bar, muttering under his breath something to the effect that it was far better far better this he did now than he had ever done before. Okay, that's a little confusing, but I think I get it. Clary went to find them a seat. The coffee shop was crowded for Monday. Most of Monday. Okay, hang on right quick. I'm not sure if you can still see me because I'm on a different tab, but I have a timer set for something else to check on something else. So I'm gonna do a online timer, and I'm not sure if I was doing it for 30 minutes or 20 minutes, but I believe I was doing it for 30 minutes. So I'm gonna put 30 minutes on the timer. I don't know why it's loading so slow. Like what? Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. Uh, I'm so sorry. Um, 30 minutes. So now we have 29 minutes and 57 seconds left. Okay. So I'm back to the book. Okay. The coffee shop was crowded for Monday. Most of the threadbare looking couches and armchairs were taken up with teenagers enjoying a free weekend. The smell Oh, someone said, "Hey, hello." I didn't realize no one was watching. I just make these live storage for the just to record them and put them on YouTube. I'm sorry if I'm annoying you. Uh, but okay, armchair. Okay, start that sentence over. The coffee shop was crowded for a Monday. Most of the threadbare looking couches and armchairs were taken up with teenagers enjoying a free weekend. The smell of coffee and clove cigarettes was overwhelming. Finally, Clary found an unoccupied love seat in a darkened corner toward the back. The only other person nearby was a blonde girl in an orange tank top, absorbed in playing with her iPod. Good, Clary thought. Eric won't be able to find us back here after the show to ask how his poetry was. The blonde girl leaned over the side of her chair and tapped Clary on the shoulder. "Excuse me." Clary looked up in surprise. "Is that your boyfriend?" the girl asked. Clary followed the line of girl's gaze, already prepared to say, "No, I don't know him," when she realized the girl meant Simon. He was headed toward them, face scrunched up in concentration, as he tried not to drop either of his styrofoam cups. No, Clary said. "He's a friend of mine." The girl beamed. "He's cute. Does he have a girlfriend?" Clary hesitated a second too long before replying no. The girl looked suspicious. "Is he gay?" Clary was uh Clary was spared responding to this by Simon returning. The blonde girl sat back hastily as he set the cups on the table and threw himself down next to Clary. I hate it when they run out of mugs. Those things are hot. Uh, he blew on his fingers and scowled. Clary tried to hide a smile as she watched him. Normally, she never thought about whether Simon was good looking or not. He was pretty dark eyed. He had pretty dark eyes, she supposed, and he filled out he filled out well over the past year or so with the right haircut. You're staring at me, Simon said. Why are you staring at me? Have I got something on my face? I should tell him, she thought, though some parts of her were strangely reluctant. I'd be a bad friend if I didn't. Don't look now, but the blonde girl over there thinks you're cute, she whispered. Simon's eyes flicked sideways to stare at the girl who was industriously studying an issue of Shonen Jump. The girl in the orange top, Clary nodded. Simon looked dubious. What makes you think so? Tell him. Go on, tell him. Clary opened her mouth to reply and was interrupted by a burst of feedback. She winced and covered her ears as Eric on stage wrestled with his microphone. Sorry about that, guys, he yelled. All right, I'm Eric, and this is my homeboy Matt on the drums. My first poem is called Untitled. He screwed up his face as if in pain and wailed into the mic. Come, my fox juggernauts, my nefarious loyans? Because lions is okay, yeah, that's not lions. Loyans? What slather every protuberance with arid zeal? Simon slid down in his seat. Please don't tell anyone I know him. Clary giggled. Who used the word loyans? Okay. Okay, Eric, Simon said grimly. All his poems, all his poems, all of his poems have loins in them. What the heck? What are loins? I think I'm saying that wrong.
Okay, check it out.
The loins are the side between the lower rib and pelvis. Okay. Okay. All of his poems have loins in them. Turgid is my torment, Eric wailed. Agony swells within. You bet it does, Clary said. She slid down in the seat next to Simon. Anyway, about that girl who thinks you're cute. Never mind that for a second, Simon said. Clary blinked at him in surprise. There's something I want to talk to you about. Furious Mole is not a good name for a band, Clary said immediately. Not that, Simon said. It's about what we were talking about before, about me not having a girlfriend. Oh, Clary lifted one shoulder in a shrug. Oh, I don't know. Ask Jai, Jida, Jida Jones out. He suggested. She suggested. Oops. She suggested naming one of the few girls at Saint Xavier she actually liked. She's nice and she likes you. I don't want to ask out Jadia Jones. Why not? Clary found herself seized seized with a sudden unspecific resentment. You don't like smart girls? Still seeking a rockin' bod. Neither, said Simon. I think he's gonna ask her out. Who seemed agitated. I don't want to ask her out because it won't really be fair to her if I did, he trailed off. Clary leaned forward. From the corner of her eye, she could see the blonde girl leaning forward too, plainly eaves. I realize it's not eavesdropping, it's eaves. Eavesdropping. Yeah, eaves. It's not eaves. Eavesdropping. Why not? Because I like someone else, Simon said. Okay. Simon okay. Simon looked faintly. I'm so sorry. I told you I'm off today. Okay. Simon looked faintly greenish, the way he had once when he'd broken his ankle. He'd broken his ankle playing soccer in the park and had to limp home on it. She wondered what on earth about liking someone could possibly have him wound up to such a pitch of anxiety. You're not gay, are you? Simon greenish color deepened. If I were, I would dress better. So who is it then? Clary asked. She was about to add that uh she was about to add that if he were in love with Shelia Bar Barbariano Bar Barbariano, think Eric will kick his ass. When she heard someone cough loud behind her, it was a derisive derisive sort of cough, the kind of noise someone might make who was trying not to laugh out loud. She turned around, sitting on a faded green sofa, a few feet away from her was Jace. I'm starting to hate. I hate Jason in this book. I like him better on the TV show. He was wearing the same dark. He was wearing the same dark clothes he had on the night before in the club. His arms were bare and covered with faint white lines like old scars. His wrists bore wide metal cuffs. She could see the bone handle of a knife protruding from the left one. Um, he was looking right at her. The side of his narrow mouth quirked in amusement. Worse than the feeling of being laughed at. I'll be back. Oh, okay. Okay. Um, back to where I was. Okay. Worse than the feeling of being laughed at was Clary's absolute conviction that he hadn't been sitting there 5 minutes ago. What is it? Simon had followed her gaze, but it was obvious from the blank expression on his face that he couldn't see Jace. But I see you. She stared at Jace as she thought, and he raised his left hand and waved at her. A ring glittered on a slim finger. He got to his feet and began walking unhurriedly toward the door. Clary's lips parted in surprise. He was leaving, just like that. She felt Simon's hand on her arm. He was saying her name, asking her if something was wrong. She barely heard him. I'll be right back, she heard herself say as she sprang off the couch, almost forgetting to set her coffee cup down. She raced toward the door. Leaving Simon staring after her. Clary burst through the door, terrified that Jace would have vanished into the alley shadow like a ghost, but he was there, slouched against the wall. He had just taken something out of his pocket and was punching buttons on it. He looked up in surprise as the door of the coffee shop fell shut behind her. In the rapidly falling twilight, his hair looked coppery gold. No one called you, Siri.
Okay, I found some.
No, looked coppery gold. Your friend's poetry is terrible, he said. Clary blinked, caught momentarily off guard. What? I said his poetry was terrible. It sounded like he ate a dictionary and started vomiting up words at random. I don't care about Eric's poetry. Clary was furious. I want to know why you're following me. Who said I was following you? Nice try. And you were eavesdropping too. Do you want to tell me what this is about, or should I just call the police? And tell them what? Jay said, witheredly. That invisible people are bothering you. Trust me, little girl, the police aren't going to arrest someone they can't see. I told you before, my name is not little girl, she said through her teeth. It's Clary. I know, he said. Pretty name, like the herb Clary sage. In the old days, people thought eating the seeds would let you see the fair folk. Did you know that? I have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know much, do you? He said. There. Oh, did you hear my finger pop? There was a lazy contempt in his gold eyes. You seem to be a mundane like any other mundane, yet you can see me. It's a conundrum. What's a mundane? Someone of the human world, someone like you, but you're human. Clary said. I am, he said, but I'm not. There was no defensiveness in his tone. He sounded like he didn't care if she believed him or not. You think you're better? That's why you were laughing at us. I was laughing at you because declarations of love amused me, especially when unre- unrequited. What? Unrequited? I think that's how you say it. Unrequited. He said, and because your Simon is one of the most mundanes I've ever encountered, and because Hodge thought you might be dangerous, but if you were, you certainly don't know it. I'm on to the next page, but I have 17 minutes and 9 seconds. That's more than enough time. I'm dangerous, Clary echoed in astonishment. I saw you kill someone last night. I saw you drive a knife up under his rib, and I saw him slash at you with fingers like razor blades. I saw you cut and bleeding, and now you look as if nothing ever touched you. I may be a killer, Jay said, but I know what I am. Can you say the same? I'm an ordinary human being, just like you said. Who's Hodge? My tutor, and I wouldn't be so quick to brand myself as ordinary if I were you. He leaned forward. Let me see your right hand. My right hand, Clary echoed. He nodded. If I show you my hand, will you leave me alone? Certainly. His voice was edged with amusement. She held out her right hand grudgingly. It looked pale in the half light spilling from the window, the knuckles dotted with a light dusting of freckles. Somehow she felt as exposed as if she were pulling up her shirt and showing him her naked chest. He took her hand in his and turned it over. Nothing, he sounded almost disappointed. You're not left-handed, are you? No, why? He released her hand with a slug. Most Shadowhunter children get marked on their right hand or left if they're left handed like I am. When they're still young, it's a permanent wound that lends an extra skill with weapons. He showed her the back of his hand. It looked perfectly normal to her. I don't see anything, she said. Let your mind relax, he suggested. Wait for it to come to you, like waiting for something to rise to the surface of water. You're crazy. But she relaxed, gazing at her hand, seeing the tiny lines across the knuckles. Gazing at his hands, seeing the tiny lines across his knuckles, the long joint of finger. It jumped out at her suddenly, flashing like a "Don't walk" sign. A black design like an eye across the back of his hand. She blinked and it vanished. A tattoo? He smiled smugly and lowered his hand. I thought you could do it, and it's not a tattoo. They're runes burned into our skin. They make you handle weapons better. Clary found this hard to believe, though perhaps no one heard to believe, and no more hard. But they make you handle weapons better. Clary found this hard to believe, though perhaps no more hard to believe than the existence of zombies. Different marks do different things. Some are permanent, but the majority vanish when they've been used. That's why your arms aren't all inked up today, she asked, even when I concentrate. That's exactly why. He sounded pleased with himself. I knew you had the sight at least. He glanced up at the sky. It's nearly full dark. We should go. We? I thought you were going to leave me alone. I lied, Jay said without a shred of embarrassment. Hodge said I have to bring you to the institute with me. He wants to talk to you. Why would he want to talk to me? Because you know the truth now, Jay said. There hasn't been a one day who knew about us for at least 100 years. About us? She echoed. You mean people like you? People who believe in demons. People who kill them, said Jace. We're called shadow hunters. At least that's what we call ourselves. The downworlders have less complimentary names for us. Downworlders, the night children, warlocks, they fae, the magical folklore of this dimension. Clary shook her head. don't stop there. I suppose there are also, what, vampires and werewolves and zombies? Of course there are, Jason informed her. Although you mostly find zombies farther south, where the Valden priestess are. What are mummies? What are mummies? Do they only hang around Egypt? Don't be ridiculous. No one believes in mummies. They don't? Of course not, Jay said. Look, Hodge will explain all of this to you when you see him. Clary crossed her arms over her chest. What if I don't want to see him? That's your problem. You can come either willingly or unwillingly. Clary couldn't believe her ears. Are you threatening to kidnap me? If you want to look at it that way, Jay said. Yes. Clary opened her mouth to protest angrily, but was interrupted by a strident buzzing noise. Her phone was ringing again. Go ahead and answer that if you like, Jay said generously. The phone stopped ringing, then started up again, loud and instant. Clary frowned. Her mother must really be freaking out. She half turned away from Jace and began digging in her bag. By the time she unearthed the phone, it was on its third set of rings. She raised it to her ear. Mom? Oh, Clary, oh, thank God. A sharp prickle of alarm ran up Clary's spine. Her mother sounded panicked. All right, Mom, I'm fine. I'm on my way home. No! Terror scraped Jocelyn's voice raw. Don't come home. Do you understand, Clary? Don't you dare come home. Go to Simon's. Go straight to Simon's house and stay there until I can. A noise in the background interrupted her. The sound of something falling, shattering, something heavy striking the floor. Mom! From her phone, Clary's mom's voice cut through the static. Just promise me you won't come home. Go to Simon's and call Luke. Tell him that he's found me. Her words were drowned out by a heavy crash like splintering wood. Who's found you, Mom? Did you call the police? Did you? Her frantic question was cut off by a noise Clary would never forget. A harsh, slithering noise followed by a thump. Clary heard her mother draw in a sharp breath before speaking, her voice eerily calm. I love you, Clary. The phone went dead. Mom, Clary into the phone. Mom, are you there? Call ended, the screen said. But why would her mom have hung up like that? Clary, Jay said. It was the first time she'd ever heard him say her name. What's going on? Clary ignored him feverishly. She hit the button that dialed her home phone. There was no answer except a double tone busy signal. Clary hands had begun to shake uncontrollably. When she tried to redial the phone slipped out of her hand, shaking grasp, and hit the pavement hard. She dropped to her knees to retrieve it, but it was dead, a long crack visible across the screen. Damn it, almost in tears, she threw the phone down. Stop that, Jace hauled away. His hands gripped her waist. Has something happened? Give me your phone, Clary said, grabbing the black metal oblong out of his shirt pocket. I have to. It's not a phone, Jay said, making no move to get it back. It's a sensor. You won't be able to use it. But I need to call the police. Tell me what happened first. She tried to yank her wrist back, but his grip was incredibly strong. I can help you. Rage flooded through Clary, a hot tide through her veins. Without even thinking about it, she struck out at his face, her nails raking his cheek. He jerked back in surprise. Uh, tearing himself free, Clary ran down toward the lights of 7th Street. When she reached the street, she spun around, half expecting to see Jace at her heels, but the alley was empty. For a moment, she stared uncontrollably into the shadows. Nothing moved inside them. She spun on her heels and ran for home. This is the end of the chapter. I only have 8 minutes left, so I'm gonna stop this video and I'm gonna start with 8 minutes and 24 seconds, which is left on the clock, and then I'll add another 30 minutes for chapter 4.